All right, guys, it is time to get this Legend off the lift. I have confirmed that the coolant fans work. That was one of my little questions I had. I don't remember if I recorded that or not. I am still trying to figure out why the hell the radio doesn't work. But, yeah, it's got the side moldings on and, you know, it looks like a real car again. So I definitely am not complaining. But I'm going to back this off here, and then all I really got to do is wire up these headlights. Right now there's HIDs installed, but there's no ballast and there's no wiring together. But I will get that together here in a second. Cleaned up the engine bay a little bit, deleted the cruise like I showed you, and just got everything on, man. The brake leak, sadly, is still there. I am trying another fix to see if that works. But in the meantime, let's get this off, and hopefully tomorrow I will be able to take it on a cruise. In my shitbox chronicles, if you will, this is going to be a telling moment. These are the bi-xenon JDM Coupe retrofitted headlights that I have purchased. Well, I didn't purchase, I got from a car that I scrapped. Sorry, X, I'm sorry. But these are built by Jimmy Jackson, and I just happened to find a harness, and I was like, yo, let's see if this actually works. I mean, I got the turn signals there, and then, you know, the JDM retrofits are just badass as shit. So let's see. Do I have light? Yes. Now, do I have bi-xenon function? Also, yes. Fuck yeah. I gotta find that other harness in my pile of shit, because as far as I'm concerned, this fucking car is ready for the streets. What's up, Acura Legend owners and enthusiasts? If you watched last week's episode of the Acura Legend Coupe project, you saw that I fixed a couple little things, got the car moving and driving, and, well, I found out some more issues. So let's dive into those issues and show how we're going to fix them. So one of the issues that I learned last week while driving the car around a little bit was that sadly, this car is starting to overheat. So, you know, overheating with Legends is very typical. It goes together like Subarus and blown head gaskets, Mitsubishis and spinning rod bearings, Hunter Biden and children. I mean, never mind. Anyways, that being said, the coolant fan switch that is located on the radiator was not working. I hot wired it and figured out that that sensor was bad. So to dive into it, now we're going to do a complete coolant system overhaul. What that is these parts right here. As always, I buy both upper and lower rad hoses. These are Gates brand, as you can see the part number for the big one, and the short one is this Gates brand as well. Now, one of the things I preach about with Legends is always using OEM thermostats. I just learned recently by browsing on eBay that there is knockoffs of these. They were running for about $52 for a brand new from the dealer, at least I trusted dealer, for the thermostat. Now, if you're running a stock Legend, always use a factory OEM thermostat. Do not get one from a parts store. The parts store ones are not as heavy duty as these are, and will give you overheating issues and conundrums that make you think you have a seeping head gasket or worse. So always buy directly from your Honda. These also share thermostats with Honda S2000, Acura RLs, some Honda V6 minivans, but grab one and toss that in. Then we have these parts here. This is a switch. Let me see, where's the part number? Right here. This little switch, I believe, is the, let me open it up. This little sensor. This one works for your gauge. This is located on the intake manifold. This is the other part number that I got. Okay, as you can see, made in Japan. That's what we want. This one here is the one that's going to go, actually, you know what, I forgot. This one actually might be the top one. No, this has to be the radiator. This is the one that goes into the rad fan issue. And then lastly, we have this little one here. It is a little bit different. You can see the threads are different sized significantly. And this is going to go into your upper intake manifold crossover tube. Now let me cut to the intake manifold to point these out. So I happen to have a motor that's sitting out of the car, and we're gonna go over the coolant system here. Okay, so big rad hose goes all the way up, connects to the thermostat housing underneath there. That is where you're gonna be changing the radiator thermostat. Short rad hose goes right here. Let me get around this engine crane, a little better visuals, sorry. So underneath here, if I would take this cover off, there's a 1 wire that goes right here for this sensor. The other sensor, this one right here, is located right there. So you can just unscrew that. And then I'm going to show you where this one goes onto the radiator. So this is going to be your radiator. Now, obviously your engine's going to be installed in your car, and so will this. But you're going to want to drain the coolant right here. This little peacock, you unscrew it. This is also a Koyo rad, very good brand. If you don't want to use a Koyo, use a Denso for the Acura Legends. And then here is the little temp sensor. This right here is what will kick the fans off and on, which are 1 and 2 right here. To go around this, if you need to test this sensor and see if it's bad, you unplug it and jumper the plug. Now, once you do that, put the jumper in it, go into the car, hit the ignition to ignition 2. The fans start spinning. If they do, that sensor is bad. This is a very common problem in all the Legends. Now, I'm going to transpose and put all of that into this visual while I do it on this car. So stay tuned. Let's get it done. So guys, once you're underneath the car, obviously using safety precautions like jack stands and everything, but I'm lucky I have a lift. You're going to want to locate this fan or coolant temp sensor right here. And of course I'm going to struggle to get it off because I'm doing this on video instead of not. You want to pull this plug out. As you can see, it's a gray plug with 2 prongs. You're going to want to take, in my case I use these little electronic connectors and bend them and jumper them just like so. What you're going to want to do now is go back into the car. Obviously, don't start the car. You just want to click the position to number 2, where the fuel pump primes. The fans will automatically kick on if this is jumped like that, because this is creating a short and sorting the power to here, and it'll be like, hey, fans, no fans. So this is your temperature control sensor, well, the plug. And here's the sensor that is bad in my car. So because I have to drain the entire radiator to get the fluid out and put the sensor back in, that's why I'm doing a coolant system overhaul. Because I don't know when it was last done on this car, but you'll see I spent less than $100 to make sure my coolant system's up to date. So the first thing I'm going to do is get this sensor out and drain the coolant, because it's going to pour out as soon as I do it. I personally like to drain the peacock, which is located right here. The peacock, which is located right there. It's a little spinner, if you will, a little wing nut type thing. Loosen it up, coolant pours out, and then you have a drained radiator. So before I get into doing this portion, let's go look at the parts that I got and walk you through the part numbers that you're going to need to do this coolant system overhaul. Okay guys, these are the parts that I'm going to be replacing in my coolant system overhaul. It is not including the million little coolant hoses that we can't even get anymore, like the heater core hoses or the ones for idle air control valve. I am not concerned with those ones. They look fine on the car. Obviously, I always suggest people to go to Rock Auto or eBay to verify and get their parts. So the sensor that we need to change, this is the sensor that's on the bottom of the radiator. You can see it has a little rubber O-ring, whitish gray plug. That is a Beck&Artley part. As you can tell, the part number is 201-1472. That's located in the radiator. The next one is this upper coolant intake manifold sensor. This is the crossover tube that goes between the 2 cylinder heads. It is located basically where the intake manifold is. Just like the lower rad hose or the lower radiator sensor has a rubber O-ring. It's a brass fitting. Screws right in. That is the part number for this. This was also located on Rock Auto. It's MA009S, or the alternate number was FL-R084. Again, this is the one wire sensor that goes to the crossover tube in the intake manifold. A lot of Acura Legends have inaccurate readings at the gauge, and this is the sensor you need to replace with that. Again, I'm just in here changing out sensors because, well, I'm going to be taking the coolant system apart and properly bleeding it, so I wanted to make sure it's all good. That is, again, a Beck & Hartley part. The part number is 201-1530. The next important piece of information I'm going to bring up is the thermostat. So many people in the Legend community go around, I got a new thermostat, I went to Pep Boys, I went to AutoZone, I went to Advance, I went to wherever you want to go. Wrong, motherfuckers. You need an OEM thermostat. I don't care if you run a Mishimoto, which is a lower temperature racing thermostat, but you need the OEM if you're just driving around as a daily driver. This is the part number. It's $55 currently. It used to be like $40. This is a cheap investment into your Acura Legend. These thermostats are robust, heavy duty, well built. The part number is 19301-P8E-A10. Even has a little barcode you can scan right now. Grab this, put it in your car. Lastly, the two pieces I'm going to do are the coolant hoses. This is the upper rad hose. I prefer the Gates brand. Part number 21591. And the longer hose, again, Gates brand, it is 21920. Has a little covering on it, if you will. Perfect for install. So let's go get these coolant drained and start plugging these sensors in, because this is going to be a really quick job other than bleeding the coolant system. But I highly suggest everybody do these. There is a million little coolant wire or coolant hoses throughout the car. Some of them aren't available, so you have to make them yourself. That's okay. But the only other ones I would really be concerned with are the heater core ones. This car is not going to be driven in the winter, so I don't have to worry about the heater core. So make sure you get those if you need it. Anything else coolant system related, and just change it all out. I will also be using the green coolant. While most people say that the blue is the best, I personally just don't use the blue. I always use green because I drain mine pretty often. It's winter, I race, I do a bunch of different things. So again, let's hop to it and get these in. Well, there you go. The coolant is coming out nice and slowly. Try to get a better view for the camera. But yeah, just like I said, crack open that drain valve. And it just feeds out the bottom. I don't want to take the valve out completely just in case it will get everywhere else except where I want it to go. But I will take the long drain and just do it that way. They're very, very simple. Also, if you ever need to change your radiator, I always suggest a benzo unit. I don't have the part number handy, but I will drop that down in the description below. So, yeah, let's get this drained and I'll throw the sensors in. Okay, so to get up in there, you're going to want to use a 22 millimeter wrench. And just break this baby free. It'll just come right out. Come on. Hopefully no more coolant comes out this way. It shouldn't, but you never know. Yep. Coolant did come out, but it came out the drain side. Oops. Hold up. Oh, that is hilarious. So I have to hold this here because it is literally right between my light, the camera, and yeah. I'm not going to get a $5,000 camera jacked up. Just believe that. Lioness, drain the hell. Alright, let's go. And there it goes. More coolant because we just needed it. I will admit, that is some ugly looking coolant. It might look green on camera, but it is not green in the bucket. It's like orange, brown dirt. So yeah, let's look at the lovely difference here. This is the sensor I pulled out. Look at that. Lovely condition. Yeah, that's going in the trash compared to beautiful. Nice new sensor. Time to screw this in and pitch that one. Okay. The coolant's done enough, let's say. Time to dry off that little area. Get some of the grossness out of there. And toss in that new one. Feels nice and tight. Time to get rid of that jumper. Toss that in the trash. Yeah, that's good enough. Now let's just snap that bad boy in. Okay, so the factory Legends come with these little like spring-loaded clips. As you can see here, it's actually up top where mine's located. You always want to get a pair of pliers. Get in there and clamp them so it rotates to where you need it to go. This one's in a little bit of a difficult position, so I'm not going to record it, but once I get the hose free, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, now you can hopefully see that clamp a little better, showing that it's, you squeeze it with a pair of pliers and move it where you need it to. In my case, I'm moving it up onto the hose, right in there, so I can go ahead and pop this little rad hose off with no issues. I'm sure this is going to be nice and tight. I'm grabbing a screwdriver, a little flathead, and hopefully not getting covered in coolant. Which, I already know how this is going to go. I'm going to get covered in coolant. So, whew. I'm taking a step back before that even pops off. All right, nothing. Great. So, let's go up to the top, pop out the sensors, pop out the hoses that we need, and basically finish this up in a couple more minutes. Okay, now we're on the top side of the engine. If you look here, you can see why I want to change the thermostat. Somebody put like blue RTV. This hose just looks a little weak. And well, there's the one coolant temp sensor, and then here's the other one located right here. So I'm going to pop these off really quick so you can see where the locations are. There's the sensor that goes towards the gauge, and then this is the other one located here. So I'm going to pop those two out, pop this hose off, and yeah, let's get it started and tear into that thermostat housing. As I demonstrated down on the lower rad hose, you're going to want to use your trusty pliers to get these hoses off. It is a 19mm deep socket to get that sensor off over here, wherever that's at. There we go. And I put a 13mm on the coolant temp gauge one, but realistically it's probably a 1/2 inch and I don't have a half, so we're just gonna roll with it and put that one in. So get ready for a time lapse. Here we go.
Perfect. Perfect.
All right, time lapse has been completed. As you can see, the one sensor, that's pretty nasty. Wasn't even really like looking good. The other one, that being said, look at that. Crusty than a motherfucker. All gross, just nasty. And then, whew, you see that pipe? I just spewed out a bunch of whatever crap. Yeah, that's why you gotta change this stuff, guys. So, now that that's done, I'm gonna move the camera a little bit and start tackling that throttle body area so I can get to the physical thermostat. All right. Well, time for that time lapse. Time to toss these sensors in and move along. So this right here is a very important coolant temp sensor ground. You always want to make sure that this goes back to where it needs to go. Obviously it's just a little 10mm bolt. That's how most of this coolant housing is connected. Now the ground is off. I will clean that once it's out. And get me back to here. Sheesh. Are you fucking kidding me? Well, guys, I hate to do this, but if it's not one thing, it's another with this car. I swear to God. So, yeah. The reason why there's so much RTV on here is because that is the only bolt holding in the thermostat housing. So, the other one is, I guess, busted or broken inside the actual thermostat housing. So, I'm not going to be able to swap that out without pulling the intake manifold and getting all that done, because that's a whole other process. And to be honest with you, I'm just not going to do that on this car. So, yeah, I can't believe that, but I'm not surprised with half the other stuff I keep finding. So back in the bolts go, and I'm going to clean that ground just because, put the hoses on and send it, because there's nothing else to do there. I'm not pulling all that off just to fix a problem like that. So yeah, let's get these back together. All right, if it's not one thing, it's another, right? So, brand new Gates hose, previous Dayco brand, Dayco. You know, it's not too bad. I think it'll work, but a little bit off on the top, so we'll double check that. But the upper hose, though, we are totally different, you know? This one goes straight, that one's got a bend. So I'm going to see if I can make this work by trimming. I think I can get it in there. I'm pretty good at that. So we will cut as it's supposed to be because it's cut to fit. But in the meantime, I'm going to put on the lower one because that's at least the easy one to get to. Okay guys, I'm going to do a little run around to show that the coolant hoses are on. Okay, you can see got the Gates one done up top, in, trimmed about 3/8 of an inch on that side and probably about a 1/2 inch on this side, but it's in. It's the way I prefer them. I know some people have like their own opinion about the bends. I keep mine level. Some people do a dip. Some people harp it over. I mean, it's just whatever. I got the bolts back into my thermostat housing, so that's all done. I've connected the lower rad hose, and now it's time to get the car up in the air and connect the lower spot, tighten up that bleeder valve, or the drain plug, I should say, and fill it full of coolant. All right, guys, car's up in the air, and now you can see we got that temp sensor changed. The lower rad hose fits perfectly. I did not have to trim a single thing. You can see it rides above the crank pulley, no issues. So close the peacock so that there's no more leaks and no more drips coming from there. And we are good to roll. Sorry, I didn't realize it was so white balanced off. There we go. So you can see the peacock is closed. The hose going all the way up, sits perfectly. It didn't get cut. And that temp sensor has been changed. So let's get the car down and put some fluids in it. Alright guys, it's time for the important part, the fill up. So like I said, I always use the green coolant. I just use straight 50-50 if it's my daily driver. If it's my race car or something performance built, I like to do 70-30. So I just mix that myself at that point. But going to top off the rad. I put the coolant already in the reservoir. I just put it up to the min line. And here we go. Let's just fill this baby up. And hopefully there's no leaks, there's no problems, because now I'm worried about the thermostat. Like, I can't believe somebody did that, but I'm not also surprised at the same time. This car has been nothing but very, very interesting problems and weird solutions. That could be one thing if I was going to rebuild the top end, which somebody clearly did at one point, and yeah, they're just an idiot. Damn, I didn't think it was going to take more than a gallon. Maybe I was wrong. Oh, never mind, I was wrong. Alright, she's definitely topped off. Now for the most important part when bleeding a Legend. One, if you're going to do this without this special tool, you're going to want the front end lifted all the way up as high as you can, within reason obviously, so all the air bubbles come forward. In my situation, I'm going to use this special tool. So the way that I like to bleed these Legends, if I don't have an air setup near me, I use this Lissel funnel. Yeah, you can find it at Harbor Freight. Most parts stores carry it now, everybody, Amazon. And the reason why is it has this bag of adapters so that you can figure out what cover you need, what adapter. Then I'm going to take the lid off. It's going to be empty. You're going to pull that out and literally set it right on top. Now the purpose of this is I'm going to be able to put coolant in this funnel, let the car run, and it'll bleed itself without having to mess with the bleeder screws or anything like that. So as you can see, I put the appropriate amount of coolant in. I am now out of coolant. Chuck that. And let's get it started and start the bleeding process. So nobody wants to see a car run for a bunch of minutes. But yeah, this is the DIY that I would put out there for everybody. How to change rad hoses, change the coolant temp sensors, how to diagnose some of the problems. I'm sorry I couldn't get into the thermostat housing. As I mentioned, it's all jacked up, but at least this will get you to hear it. So while you're bleeding, it's always best to let the fan cycle 3-4 times if you want. You'll notice little bubbles and levels will change in here, but just keep it about halfway full, and that should be good for you. And then, again, fan cycles 3-4 times. Hell, let it run for 20 minutes. It ain't going to hurt anything, because now your fans work, your gauge works, and everything else will. So just check for leaks, and you're done. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little DIY walk around my whole crapload of projects and problems. And see you on the next one. Hopefully I can teach you more about Legends. But for now, let's get the coolant system sorted out so that you can daily drive them without any issues.